Hi everyone, and welcome back to our channel, or welcome to our channel if you're new here. In today's video, we'll be showing you how to make a delicious crispy pork belly. Now, pork belly is kind of an Asian dish. You can find it in a lot of Asian restaurants, and we see it a lot online. And we did recreate our own recipe at home, and it came out absolutely perfectly. It's very crispy on the top layer, and then it has a nice gelatinous sort of meat at the bottom. So if you'd like to see how to make this, then please keep on watching. Alrighty, so we're going to start off, of course, with the ingredients you need for this recipe. So we're going to start off with Chinese 5 spice. You're going to need 1 teaspoon of this, or you can use fennel, anise, cinnamon, ginger, and clove as a substitute. You're also going to need 1 teaspoon of salt, 1.5 teaspoons of vinegar, and 1 teaspoon of baking soda. You're also going to need 1 teaspoon of dried thyme, or fresh thyme if you have it, 1 teaspoon of ground cumin, and 1 teaspoon of black pepper. You're also going to need half a teaspoon of lemon pepper and half a teaspoon of chili flakes. Now, the chili flakes are optional. We like a lot of spicy food, so that's why we're adding that in, but you can always leave that out if you choose to. You're also going to need 1 teaspoon of Saigon chili sauce, or sriracha if that's the one you have on hand, 1 teaspoon of soy sauce, 1 teaspoon of sesame oil, and 1 teaspoon of fish sauce. So all of these ingredients will be combined together, aside from the salt, vinegar, and baking soda that's going to be left for later on in the video. But the other ingredients, and these included on the screen, are all going to be for our rub for our pork belly. Speaking of pork belly, you're of course going to need a pork belly. It's the star of the dish, of course. And this is the underside of our pork belly, so we're just going to take this and wash that up very clean. And once you have that washed up with clean hands and a knife, you're going to slice down the pork belly into sections and make cuts at the beginning of the fat. So you don't want to cut deep into the fat. You see, we're starting and ending right where the fat starts, because you don't want to cut through the fat, otherwise your entire pork belly will fall apart, of course. So once you're done slicing down one end, you're going to slice down the opposite end in order to create squared off sections. And what this is for is basically when you add that rub that you're going to make, it's going to act as kind of sections where your seasoning can seep into the meat and really give it great flavor. And because we're not going to be seasoning the top of the pork belly, this is going to act as your way of seeping into the pork fat and getting that seasoning in there. So that's what it should look like roughly. Depending on the size of your pork belly, of course, it's all going to look different. So we're going to start off with the seasoning now. 1 teaspoon of sesame oil we have in our bowl already. And then we're going to add 1 teaspoon of fish sauce. You're then going to add a teaspoon of soy sauce. And then you're going to add the teaspoon of Saigon chili sauce. Of course, you can use sriracha as a substitute, or you can use any other chili sauce as a substitute. Or you can just skip the chili sauce if you're not into spicy things. And you're just mixing this together. We want to make sure all of these liquidous ingredients are all mixed together before we start adding our dry ingredients. So you're going to add in your half teaspoon of chili flakes, and again, this is optional. You're then going to add in your half a teaspoon of lemon pepper. You're then going to add your teaspoon of black pepper, 1 teaspoon of ground cumin, and then you're going to add your teaspoon of Chinese 5 spice, or the spices that I mentioned earlier in the video. And then you're going to mix all of this together, and from there you could just stop right there, or you can add in your thyme. The thyme was kind of an afterthought, but it does add a really good flavor to the pork belly, so we're going to add that dried thyme in there. And then we're just going to mix all of that together. And that is your rub for your pork belly. So now with clean hands, we are just working that into the pork belly, the same side, and we're not going to turn it over to the side of the fat. because the skin and fat is going to be left alone so that it can dry out and get that crispy layer that we're looking for. So right now we're just taking all of that seasoning and just working that into the meat, and you'll see because of the cuts that we made into the meat, it's seeping straight through to the fat, so we don't have to do the other side. So you can see that the skin side is completely clear here. So you're going to place it on top of 2 layers of aluminum foil, and then you're going to fold each side and bring it towards the pork belly. And what is this? This is going to act as kind of a barrier for the pork belly to stay intact, 1. And 2, it's going to let all of the flavors stay underneath the pork belly and seep through it, going straight into the fat. And if you do leave it out completely, it can still work in the oven, but we find that this method seals in all of the flavor and makes it even more delicious. Alright, so once your pork belly is sealed in, you want to wipe off any of the excess seasoning on there, because again, we don't want our skin to have any excess seasoning on top. It's just the bottom of the pork belly that needs it. So then you're going to take your teaspoon of salt, and then you're going to rub this on the top of the skin, and this is just going to act as a drying agent to dry out the skin. Now you may be thinking, why do we want to dry out the skin? The skin needs to dry out in order to build that crispy layer. So you're just going to rub that in gently and make sure to get all the ends, because you want the entire pork belly to get crispy, not just parts of it. You'll also need to add your 1.5 teaspoons of vinegar, and you're also rubbing that into the pork belly as well. And then lastly, you're going to add in your 1 teaspoon of baking soda, or less, depending on how crackling you want it to be at the top. But of course you want it to be as crackling as possible, so you're going to put enough of that. And then you're going to wipe that in as well. Now, if you remember from back in school, if you take vinegar and baking soda, it usually bubbles up. And that's the same sort of component that we're working with here. And it is safe to eat, of course. So you add in the baking soda and vinegar, and that's what's going to cause it to react and bubble up. So we're going to put this in the fridge overnight, and then we're going to take it out in the morning and put it back into the oven. Alright, so it's the next morning, and you can see here that our pork belly overnight in the fridge, it started to really dry out on the top, and that's perfect. You can see the skin has no more moisture left into it, and a lot of the sides are starting to peel because of how dry it is. And that is exactly when we're going to put it into the oven. So you're going to put it into the oven for 220 degrees Fahrenheit for an hour. Okay, so after an hour, you're going to open up the oven and start brushing your pork belly with some vegetable oil. And you just want to brush enough to get a nice thin layer of that all over the top of the pork belly. This is going to act as another bubbling agent to bring it up and make it start crackling. So then you're going to set it back into the oven at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for 30 to 35 minutes, or up to an hour depending on the size of your pork belly. And this is what it should look like when it's completed. So we left in that little bit there to show you that how crackling the sound is when you start cutting into it. And you can see we did flip it over onto its other side just so that it's a lot easier to cut. And because of the sections that we made before cooking it, it made it a lot easier to cut it into nice bite-sized pieces. Alright, so that is the pork belly completed, and we plated it up with a nice green sauce, and this green sauce is a green seasoning sauce. We've used it in a couple of our videos. Basically, it's made with cilantro, celery, garlic, and etc. If you want to see a video or a quick video on how to make that, just let us know in the comment section below. But otherwise, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is a delicious recipe, and it is something that really doesn't last very long in our house. Probably lasts about a day, because it is really addicting when you start eating this, especially with the delicious sauce. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Also, don't forget to comment down below what you thought of this video and other videos on our channel. and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more videos when we upload. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this. This is something that we've been making for a while and we wanted to share it with you. I also want to say thank you so much for all of the love and support on these videos lately. We've been seeing a lot of our videos getting a lot more views, and we've been seeing a high amount of subscribers. So thank you so much, and have a fantastic week. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.